just got to tweak these, and then obviously samples need to go higher depending on what you need, but you do pay for it in render time. So but anyway, it's it's great because it gives you an alpha for your patch camera. So basically, the idea then is that you need to create a patch camera that will patch up those areas. Now, occasionally you might have to create two because things cross over, or you might need to use a user mask, and I'll try and show you that. But the theory is that basically, if we go to our moving camera and we look at that, so we know our occluded areas are going to be, if we go to somewhere like here, usually it's kind of the end of your camera move, and then you droop your camera, and then you might kind of bring it back a little. So, moving camera, droop the spotlight. Don't really want to do that. It's like camera, duplicate special. Call this patch cam. You might just. Sometimes you need to kind of tweak it because that there's certain areas that will work and some won't. So, if I go up high, like up from above, it'll be give me a great area for around here, but under there won't work. So, you got to find the balance. But say it might be something like that, and then render that out a decent res. So, my original shots are around 5K, so I'll try and roughly keep to that. Okay, so here's our patch cam, and I rendered off the occluded area mask as well. So you can see what's going on. There's a couple of problem areas where we'll have to deal with the pole. Something's offsetting, but anyway. So the basic idea though is now we need to clone these areas, or depending on if you've got shots that you can use. So I guess usually in a case where you go and shoot a scene, a still, etc., you might have, like here, I've got the middle section. So you've got some of this texture that may work. Well, of course, our color's different. Now you can see the issue with that stretching based on purely on our angles so far from the initial. So that's where you can do kind of secondary patches and use masks, etc. There's lots of different things you could do. You could actually have a secondary camera that's a bit further, I guess, say from above. I'll do it in Maya. So, our initial proj cam is... Where is it? Proj cam 1. Yeah, initial proj cam is there. So, for this thing here, it might be more ideal to have that around here. And that's really what projection's about, finding I guess a place that it works for, both sections, because, while, when you're down here, it obviously doesn't work because it's stretching far too much. And it's also the problem with smaller detailed areas like that. You get away with more, obviously, on flat planes. Anyway, so I'll just quickly clone this and we'll just deal with one problem at a time. So And once again, I'm not on my Wacom, so excuse me if it's a little fiddly and slow. But as I said, ideally you'd use your other shots and color correct them and kind of get it all perfect. But it doesn't really matter so much for this because it gives you an indication anyway. Alright, so I'll pause that and I'll just finish cloning. You don't need to watch me clone. Okay, so that's kind of rough as, but yeah, just a quick clone and just looking at the occluded areas. I might invert that screen. So you can see I've basically cloned any areas that are potentially an issue. So, oops. So what we do is just save that out as a. Just go back to JPEGs as our patch cam. So now we have the patch cam in Maya. What we need to do is create our initial project cam mix. Blending the two cameras together. So you have your kind of initial light that creates the occluded areas. So then you basically just need to choose in order your cameras. So you start with your primary projection, then you go into your next camera, etc. So you start with our project cam, select that, then we select our patch cam. Now we only have two for the moment. So then you hit the cam button and that goes and creates all the links in the hypershade necessary. And if you go into... Now what it does is it creates a Maya software and a mental ray version. So if you go to materials, you'll see... you'll see you've got a project cam mix here, which is your Maya software, and then your, I think it's in textures, Project Cam Mix MR. Now the difference being that the light occlusion can't be done in Maya software, so you need to use the mental ray one. So anyway, so it creates this network for you. Basically, and you just need to plug in all your files. So in here, you just add your initial shot that you used to build your projection off. So I'll just use the JPEG. And then up here is your patch cam. Just that. So providing there are no issues, that should work. Now, just to show you, I probably won't be covering much of this today, but we'll definitely be doing it as part of the project shot. But to add your own user masks, so you may say, for the foreground, if you need to extend the road, which you do, say in these areas here, you can basically add a kind of an alpha user mask to here, to your ramp. So at the moment it's white. I'll show you roughly how that kind of works. But Anyway, so if we go to our moving camera, we need to assign it. So select all geometry. And we'll assign a new surface shader. And basically just plug in that T out color. So then we go to our moving camera. Okay, so I rendered a shot. I just simplified the camera a bit so the dip wasn't there. But just to show you with the initial patch cam now. Obviously, you need a second one for there, but you can see there's a whole bunch of other problems going on. Now the sign sliding away is, I think, it's I guess essentially the problem of modelling off one perspective. It's probably the case that I don't have the model close enough to the wall, so even though in the initial scene setup, if I look at my proj cam, so I have, this is the shot I took, and there's the the modelling of the sign, etc. It may line up. It may look like it lines up there, but obviously it doesn't, because it slides away as the camera moves around. So you can see it's kind of working, but then it's moving away. So probably what's likely is it's my model's not close enough to the wall, or it's too close. But that's I guess essentially one of the problems, because you don't have, unless you can calibrate all your cameras really accurately, which you really need to spend a lot of time doing, you can encounter these problems quite easily. So there are ways around it. Now, obviously the kind of awning thing isn't really working either. I mean, it's starting to at the top in the easy bits, but obviously you've got, you need more detailed modelling there, because that's bringing some of the kind of the cream wall with it. And then the patch cam needs probably another one from somewhere like the middle. Because we've got one near the end, but when you need one here to fix these bits. So it's quite fiddly. And when you're talking about this stuff, that, I mean, it's so close to the wall that it's kind of hardly even worth doing. Because what you're essentially after is a nice clean shot, and if you have to patch up all these things just for something silly like that, it's not really worth it. But so what I did on the shot that I first showed you, where I'd kind of done things a little differently. Sorry. This one. So what I've done is the pole I've moved out. I did that purely as just to change it, because I mean often that would happen anyway. But it's still in the primary projection. But what I really did with this shot is the way I kind of did it differently, and I'll open the scene to show you. Okay, so as I was saying, on the original version I did, I modelled it off the same shot, roughly. I mean, it was the same shot, but modelled it roughly. Then I kind of duped the cam and pulled it kind of around to the side. But anyway, so it became more like that. So I pulled back and brought it, kind of swung it around a bit. Being, that's kind of a common way to do, projections anyways. Like you're pulling back the camera to create the initial projection, so you've got, I guess, more coverage. But also what that does is, by swinging the camera around a bit, it gives you more chance to build this shot, especially down here, with better images, or at least distort it better so that when you have a camera move, it doesn't stretch as much, if that makes sense. Anyway, and so what I did was, I've moved the camera around, and then I've just rendered my initial model with an ambient occlusion, which you can see underneath. But I'll show you what it looks like in Photoshop. Okay, so basically I've just kind of modeled it up and then brought the street sign out a bit and then just rendered an ambient occlusion. So I've then kind of patched, I guess, the shot back over the top. So, if that's the shot brought in, and then I've, retouched stuff out, etc. Put a new sign in, move a grade. So anyway, but what that does is see how you're on a bit more of an angle here, and obviously I'm still needing to extend these bits out. But I mean, essentially, what it does is it gives you a better ability to, I guess, more control of the camera, or you can do a better camera move because you've got less issues here because you've built a shot that's more optimal in Photoshop. If that makes sense. And the pole itself, it's now much more accurate because I've rendered it off ambient occlusion. I mean, there's still one tiny little edge there, but I haven't actually done it as a separate projection. It's still all the same. I'll show you the projection setup. So yeah, it's still only a 2-part projection. So that does the job. So we have the patch cam here, which I can show, which is just basically, I think, from the initial shot, and I've cleaned out the sign. Yeah, so that covers when you reveal behind the signpost. So yeah, I mean, really, it's all about your setup. And that's kind of what defines how well your projections will work. And obviously, there's many different situations that you're going to find yourself in to be setting these up, whether they're from photographs or from your virtual environments. So, look, the way we'll be doing it for the project shot, is more like, I guess, how I achieve this scene. With more, I guess, defined models from me, which gives us more accurate camera projection ability, which in the end makes it a bit simpler in that side of things. So, yeah, anyway, so going on to next week, we'll start talking about, we'll start creating this shot, really. I'll be looking at showing you guys some of the detailed modeling stuff I was talking about in Modo, so using the profiling tool. I'll look at what I'll start looking at based on the camera move, and that being changeable. What I guess we'll start needing for projections. Looking at textures, and then also looking at what we're going to need in the background, because as you know, we're talking about doing a kind of a camera move up, like on a crane or on Jibam or whatever, that we are going to reveal stuff behind. So whether they're on cart, like just on image planes or more models, etc. We'll work that out. But yeah, I mean, next week I'll just try and fly through stuff so that for 9 and 10 we can really just concentrate on using the map painting toolkit to create our scene with a huge. I know there's going to be quite a lot of projections. So I'll cover, which I didn't get today, I'll cover using like user-defined masks and ramps and stuff. And